Abbi Glines, Kathleen, RKA Tucker, and Rebecca Donovan. We are here as Up All Night Book Blog, and it's our one-year anniversary celebration, and as part of that, we are excited to have you all here just to celebrate that with us. And we'd like to just have a nice little chat with the three of you. And we have a few questions, and then we thought we would open up for fan questions afterward. So first off, just a quick check-in. What is, for you, Abbi, and then Kathleen, and then Rebecca, can you just tell us a little bit about what you're currently working on, and then we'll start asking some other questions and go from there. So, Abbi?
Okay. Right now, I'm working on Bad for You. It will be the 7th book in the Seabury series. Crit, I introduced him because of Low, which is the 2nd book. He had a small little part, and then he's shown up off and on throughout the series. And then in the last one, in Misbehaving, he played a pretty big part. So everyone seemed to like him, and I haven't done a rock star type story in a while, even though it's more like a local indie band kind of rock star thing. But I'm working on Crits. It's different. The girl's very different for me too, so it's been a lot of fun. I like when I get to get off of my obvious path that I tend to get into sometimes in my romances, but I'm having fun with this one, so yeah.
Sure. So I'm just finishing up. It's called Anomaly, so it's the 4th book in my YA paranormal series, and then 5 Ways to Fall, which is the 4th book in the 10 Tiny Breaths series, is coming out in June. But I will be starting a completely new series. The first one's titled Burying Water, and that's with Atria Books as well. So that'll be releasing October, and I'm super, super excited to be starting that soon. That's it right now.
That's a lot.
I'm working on a standalone novel called What If, and it's written from a guy's point of view. He's 20 in college, so that's been challenging and interesting and all of that. So yeah, no, it's a great project. I'm excited to get it out and get it done. I just signed with Penguin UK for its release. I haven't signed with a US publisher yet, so we'll see what happens.
So that would be different to get into the 20-year-old male character. So that sort of that leads to the next question is for each of you, and Rebecca, maybe you can start. Is how do you get to know your character? Are they in your head? Do you look at photos? How do you really get into something that's different than you?
Well, it has to be a voice that's already talking to me in order to introduce the idea of it anyway. So I knew I needed to write from this male point of view. It took me a little bit to get to know him, his psyche. I had to really dissect that person, their persona, all the way down, and really understand them inside and out before I can even start writing from first person from their perspective. So that he's a little hard to get used to. First, honestly, I've rewritten this thing from the beginning like 4 times now. So he's been a challenge. I think part of it is I wanted him to be an average guy. I didn't want him to be a bad boy. I didn't want him to be an aggressor, or I didn't want him, to be like Evan or Cole or anybody else or Jonathan from any of my others in the series. So I wanted him to be the average guy. And at first I think I was making him too wimpy. Like I was bored with him and I didn't really care to write about him anymore. So now I have found him, and it's coming out easier. But it's different from writing from a female point of view, because I think if I can connect as a woman with a female, and I can just write fluid and write consecutively and fluidly with it. But as writing a male point of view, it comes in gushes. Like I just have to be ready for it when he's ready to come out, because I really have to be more analytical on how I write. It's tricky. It's tricky.
I can imagine. Kathleen?
Well, I wish I had a really solid process, but I don't. Was it 4 Seconds to Lose, which was the Kane story, was the first dual point of view that I'd ever written with a male-female, and I struggled so much. I think I wrote and rewrote and wrote and wrote, and I couldn't get it right for several months, and it was just, I don't know. It was getting the male point of view because he had to be a very strong character, and it was kind of to what Rebecca said, is she was bored of him, and I find that's the case if the character, any character at all, but especially a male character, if they don't have a very strong personality, I find it next to impossible to write it. Kane had a very strong personality. Ben was, I don't know, that maybe because it was my second male point of view that I had to write, but he was easy. I mean, he was super simple. But it was just because I needed to picture him as an actual person before. And with Kane, I couldn't picture him before, and I think that was my major roadblock. So really it's figuring out who they are and what they would do in the situation beforehand made a huge impact or a huge difference for me in my story.
Abby, how about you?
I guess with each character, I tend to write a lot of books a month. Right, like this month I have 2 different books that were due to 2 different publishers. So staying in my characters' heads is difficult. I tend to try to go from one extreme to the other to help me, especially when I'm doing 2 different books real close together, to stay in their character. But I don't know that I've ever had a difficulty. Once I know that's what I'm going to write and that's who I'm going to write, I'm in their head, and I can get it out pretty fast. Guys have never been hard for me. I've always been told by my husband and my parents and everyone else that I think more like a guy than I do a girl most of the time anyway. So when I wrote Bo Vinson, which was my first guy point of view I had ever written, it was super easy because I got it. I knew it. It was easier. I don't know that I have difficulty with that. It just, when it's time to write it, they're there, and I can stay in their head until it's done. Now, when I have to go back and rewrite that same character in another book, like I just wrote Rush Too Far, that was due 2 weeks ago, and so I just finished Rush Too Far not too long ago, and I had to go back and read Fallen, obviously, but then I had to go read Never and Forever and remember his personality because I hadn't been in his head in so long. So when I do that, I do have to go back, and it's hard to stay there and not mess it up, but new books are easy.
Yeah. Do you find that you look at photos and those kind of things for inspiration? I don't know if anyone actually, did you guys address that part?
Were you going to talk, Rebecca?
No.
Rebecca. Oh, okay. I've never done that but with one book, and everyone says that the cover of Fallen Too Far is perfect. That's because I filmed the picture before I wrote the book. That's never happened with any other book. I actually looked at that picture while I wrote Fallen Too Far. That's why the cover's perfect. That's the only time I've ever looked at a picture. It's always been in my head otherwise. So.
Interesting. Kathleen, do you find inspiration through photos, or is it, again, just somebody that is entirely your own imagination?
I tend to, I tend to more, as opposed to people, I tend to find scenes, things like pictures and settings and things like that. That's where I find I'm more drawn to trying to build something, and, whether it's a house or whether it's, fields or whatever. People, I try not to get too descriptive. I mean, I'm, even with all of my covers, I'm quite happy that there's no actual full-on face with any of the 10 Tiny Breaths series, because that to me throws my reading experience off when there's an actual face to it. So I try to stay away from that. Once in a while I'll scan, but I always end up looking at Henry Cavill, and and then I stop there. So so all of my characters would look like him if I could.
I think he inspires a few, yes. Rebecca?
I don't tend to look at pictures too much. The only one actually I did look at was for Evan. I had that Abercrombie model that is on my my website, or it's on my Facebook page, 200 the pictures. He's the only one, and I mean, it was just fun to look at Abercrombie models so that I could kind of be inspired. But yeah, so that was a tough day. But no, usually it's in my head. Right now, actually, Cal, my main character, I kind of been looking at pictures just a little bit, but not. No, I don't have inspired by a specific one. Sometimes it's hairstyle or coloring. I actually just helps you kind of you look at something is in that shade of color. It just helps me find the descriptive words to write about it. So that's where I like look at it. So it's just like the pieces of it, or same thing like with Kathleen said, if it's a house or a field or I had to research silos. You'll have to find out why, but it's one of those things you have to look. You can't guess at some things. You can't try to describe it just based on memory. Usually structurally, I try to do that. And same thing like even with like things like weather or geography or just doing research like on places that you've never personally been. I need to know what it's like, and I actually even call author friends that live in that area and say, okay, talk to me, it's the reason that I don't use actual towns or universities. They're all the ones that tend to usually, like in this one, I made them up because I don't want anyone that is from there to be like, no, you got it wrong. So that way, if it's my make-believe town and my make-believe university, I can't be wrong.
Right.
Yeah. So that's, it's you do research and you need that inspiration to give you the facts so that, there's it's fiction, but it has to have some truth running through it to have that credibility for your readers.
Absolutely. And what a great, putting it in a fictional place so that, like you said, no one can say that's, that place doesn't look like that, or that place doesn't really exist at that university.
Right.
So in writing, do you listen to music? I know, I've heard some authors write to music or they're inspired by it or they have to have silence. So what kind of writer are you? Kathleen, do you want to start?
Yeah, so I'm definitely inspired by music, but when I'm actually writing, it has to be absolute silence. I'm in like I shut the door and I close the world out, and I just can't have any noise. The most I've ever been able to do is put something on super, super quiet and on like looping repeat so that it just kind of falls into the background, but otherwise I get messed up within like 2 minutes of music coming on.
I get that. Abby, how about you?
I am a big music person. These right here, my lovely hot pink beats. I have 3 kids, and they're really, really loud. And I'm underneath my oldest daughter's room in this office, and it can get really loud up there in the afternoons with friends. So I have to have music going, or I can't finish a book. And it's not so much that it inspires me; it's that it drowns out them. Because then I'm stopping and going, don't yell at each other, or be nice, or, so the music keeps me from getting distracted. So, anyway, it helps a ton.
I bet. Well, Rebecca, how about you? I know music is a big part of your life.
Yeah, I'm a huge music fan, as you probably can tell just if you follow me anywhere. But I don't listen to it when I write. I can't. Same thing with Kathleen. It has to be absolute silence, but I find inspiration in music. I'll hear a song that will either inspire me to write a scene, or it just fits into a scene I just wrote. So then I drop it right into my playlist. I have my book playlist. So I hear a song that really gives me that moment, and if I need to find that inspiration again, I'll listen to that song, and then help me go back to writing afterwards. But yeah, music is huge for me. So I definitely use it, but this actually, What If is inspired by a song itself. It's Girls Like You by The Naked and Famous inspired this book. So this whole book is really, it's huge. I can't live without it.
That one is definitely on the playlist.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Rebecca, I've heard you do dialogue out loud. Is that true?
It is. I have to sometimes. Sometimes just the influx of things, or if it sounds right. a lot of times I find if I write dialogue just from what's in my head, it doesn't sound as realistic. So also, I find sometimes when I'm in my car is when I get flooded with an idea. So I kind of play it back and forth. I know I look like a lunatic driving, talking to myself, especially when I'm talking in two different personalities in the sense I'm having this conversation. But it's a huge inspiration to be able to hear myself, to be able to hear it going back and forth and making it have that realistic point of view. And sometimes when I've written something that I don't talk out loud and I read it out loud, I like, yeah, it's important, I think, to have that dialogue. So it's a little bit of acting in with writing too.
So you don't write at Starbucks where people might wonder.
Oh no. Oh no.
Too funny. Kathleen, do you dialogue out loud?
No. No.
No.
I'm the only crazy one.
It's all in my head. All in my head. Even writing all of the intimate romantic scenes, it's very technical, and I might be sitting there like staring up at the ceiling, picturing, okay, one leg goes here, and I'm like stage directing in my head. But no, there's no talking out loud. Just
Thanks, Kathleen. Now you make me sound like I'm crazy.
Oh, Abby, how do you work through your dialogue?
Okay, before I tell you that, Rebecca, could you please Instagram video the next time you do this? Because I want to see it. Please.
Never.
No. I don't do dialogue out loud either. I do talk to my characters out loud when I'm frustrated or I'm confused with something. I will chat with them. They do not talk back, but I do talk to them out loud, so you're not completely crazy, Rebecca. But I say completely. I'm just kidding. I love you, Rebecca. I don't dialogue. It's in my head, and I think if I said it out loud, especially with some of these Southern guys that I do their dialogue, I would sound like an idiot. So it sounds better in my head. So I write what is in my head. There's a lot of things that I do not want to say out loud, and there's a lot of words that some of my characters use I don't even use. So no, I never say it out loud. It's always in my head.
Oh, I didn't say I'm good at it. Like I'm not saying I deserve some sort of Academy Award or anything.
Instagram video.
But Rebecca, do you actually like change positions? So like this way, around this way, and that way?
No, and I don't do it with all the dialogue. Let me clarify. It's not like throughout the entire book, oh my gosh, I'd be like a horse. I would not, no. But it's just sometimes when it's back and forth and it's an intense moment or it's a certain scene, I just want to capture it right. I don't want some things, like especially these really intimate scenes, I don't want it to come across too hokey or too like floral. Like I just want to make sure it sounds right. I need to make sure that it has that realistic tone to it. So no, I don't do it all the time. But yes, I do. I do have them talk, and it's ridiculous. If you heard it, you would die. I mean, it would just. I mean, okay. I'm going to tell you something. This is awful. I have the recorder on my phone, and so in my car, I will talk into it if I have something in my head and I can't get it out, and I do the dialogue thing. So I do actually have a recording of me doing a dialogue, and it's when I have to listen back to it, I'm embarrassed for myself. But it's yeah, it's funny. I do it.
What we learn, right? So, Abby, a quick question for you, or to start out. How much do you feel is you that's brought out in your stories or in your characters? How much of it is you?
Most of the time, none of it. I'm very careful to not use my personality for when I would get bored, because I feel like I bore myself. So typically my characters have none of my personality at all. They may have the personality of someone I know or I'm close to, or be inspired by someone that I like or that entertains me. But as far as myself, one time A lot of people haven't read my Existent series, but the girl Pagan in the Existent series has more of my personality than any character's ever had before. I didn't realize it when I did it. It was the second book that I ever wrote, even though it was the third one published. I wrote it second. And I hadn't learned at that point how to really detach myself from the character, I guess. And my mother pointed it out when she read it, that Pagan acted like me. She had a lot of my traits. So that's never really happened since then. So. I don't know. It's more entertaining to write somebody else and their personality. So.
Kathleen, what about you?
I'm the same way, where I try and completely separate myself. I don't want to see myself in books. It drives me nuts when people ask, oh, how much of that is your experience? I'm like, I have not experienced any of that, especially as a guide point of view. So it's not me. I'm not writing from my personal experience. Definitely not. And I try and completely separate myself. I would say my writing style, because I'm a very direct person. I'm a blunt person. I don't go off on massive tangents, and so I don't think I do anyway. And so I think that reflects in my writing style. But in terms of the actual characters, I try and picture them as complete, whole individuals, and that's what I think. That's why I struggle so much with a lot of the stories, or it takes me a while to write them, because I'm struggling to try and nail that person down, and I don't. 5 Ways to Fall is actually the first book where I actually took somebody from my life, and she's a secondary character, but somebody from my life, and modeled a character for that person. That's the first time I've ever done it, which made it so easy. I need to do that more often. But otherwise, no. It's pretty. I would say pretty different.
Well, I just must be a narcissist or something, because I drop a lot of my isms in my books. So you'll find a lot of my even character traits or things I do, my own interests, things I'm passionate about. And I think it's because I am passionate about them that I'm able to write about them with such exuberance. So, like, even with, in the Breathing series, that high school was based on my high school, there's obviously changes to it, but it is. A lot of the dates in that were based on dates that I went on. The scene where he gave her the necklace that night, that was actually based on my 18th birthday. So, and this new character, Niall, she's a little crazy, and she has some isms. And if you're a close friend of mine, and you'll kind of see it, you'll get to see some of it too. Not full out, personality, not full out me. There's just character traits that I drop in, and I think I have fun with it because I have done it personally and I know it firsthand. It helps me describe it better, which is interesting, especially music. Like music, I drop it throughout my books all the time. Having to go into concerts, or having to listen to music, or having something, happening. And again, it's because I'm so passionate about it. I write with ease when I do that. So you probably put my books together. You figured me out a lot.
So, I joked about writing at Starbucks and acting things out. Where do you find yourself writing? Do you write, at a desk? Do you write in bed? Do you write, what's kind of your norm?
Who needs to go first?
Go ahead, Abby.
Oh, sorry. Abby, go ahead.
Okay. Here, this is where I write. Every book is right here. So I don't go anywhere else. If I get up and go in another room, I'm not writing. Everything is written at my desk, with the door closed and my beats on. That's where it all happens.
I love the Diva Den behind you, by the way.
My daughter picked that out for me because she thought it was funny, so I had to hang it in here. So yeah.
Very nice. Kathleen, what about you?
Well, so during the day, it's in my office where I'm at now because the blinds behind me are so inspirational. And but I'm here. This is where I lock myself up. It's either on my I have a chaise here in the corner, which I find bizarre, and I'm sure my chiropractor would hate me for it. But I like hunch over my laptop all day and type on it. It helps with my wrists. Weird. And or I'm in the evenings. I'm in my bedroom, and that's it. Those are the only two places I can write. That's it.
Rebecca, what about you?
I can't write in public. Definitely cannot write in public over voices. No? Even just with a TV on in another room, it's distracting. So definitely quiet and silence. Each book, I've almost written in a different place. Like I feel like once I find that zone where I'm comfortable and what's going on, I stay there. Like I don't want to lose it. I just gotta keep that energy going. So Reason to Breathe, I wrote in my bed, like literally sitting in my bed. And then Barely Breathing, I wrote that one in my chaise. I did that. I do that too, Kathleen. I like to prop my legs up, and I think I feel like I have that comfort and just be able to do it. I have like one of those laptop desk things that you put my laptop on, and then Out of Breath, part of it too, I wrote that in the ocean. I went to California, and like the last third of it I wrote with the inspiration of that, and actually the whole series pretty much had some sort of water element, but I was near the ocean. I lived in Rhode Island right off the shore, so I know I kind of weird like that with the whole vibes and having to be in the right place and get the right energy, but I can't sit at a desk and write. My desk is for business, so it's answering emails, it's doing, my bookkeeping or whatever. But it's for creativity, I definitely have to be relaxed and have the right atmosphere. So this one, What If? I can't write in my office. Actually, it's really weird. I have to write in my bed. I don't know why it's going on, but it is.
Well, wherever you find inspiration and wherever it works for you, we just want more books to keep coming, okay? So back to a little bit of the question, it relates a little to, how to get into your character, I think, also. But do you have a beta team, somebody that reads for you, helps you out, maybe a group texting with friends, or, who do you go to if you have questions? Kathleen, do you want to start?
Sure. So I have kind of a crypt partner / beta reader who I tend to always send her, call it the first 3 chapters-ish, 2 to 3 chapters of any book, and then she gives me feedback, and then I don't send anything to her again until I'm done, because it's just a thing. It's like the beginning is always typically the hardest to get going. You've got that real catch, that grab, and then after that, I don't want to show her what I'm writing, because it's like, I don't know, it's like coming out half dressed from a dressing room at a store and saying, hey, how do you think this looks? Like, it's because I know it's not ready. So I usually tend to just wait until the end and then send it to her. And then I have several other beta readers who help me out with different series. So depending on what their preference is, if they're into fantasy, then I always go to them, or if they're into romance, then I'll go to them. But I leverage them a lot, and they're fantastic.
If you're writing from the male point of view, do you use male, beta readers, or do you go to maybe a friend's boyfriend or something like that?
I should, but no, I don't. I don't know why. It's actually a really good idea to do, probably, but I haven't. No.
Oh. What about you, Abby?
I do. I have 2 beta readers that I use for all my books. Sometimes when I first begin, I will send them the first little part of the first chapter to see if it is a good enough hook. And then again, like Kathleen said, I don't send them anything else until I'm done. I let them read it. They're not writers. They're not authors. They are readers and reviewers. And I let them read it, and they give me their feedback, and they can be brutal sometimes, which is good, which is why I use the 2 that I use, because they don't hold back punches. And I think that that's why my books turn out the way I want them in the end, because they're able to point out to me what it is I'm missing. Once I'm done with them, I normally run it through Colleen, Whenever she's got time, her and Jamie One will read things. I've run it through several of them. If I have time, I write too many books, and sometimes they're too busy to read my books every other week. I'm just kidding. It's not every other week, but when they have time. And then I'll send it on to my editor. So I used to put it through more people, but it's hard when you're doing 2 books sometimes a month. It's hard to expect them to, always be ready to read your books and give you critique on it. So I don't want to wear them out. I keep waiting for my beta readers to like wave a flag and say, please stop. So, But, and as far as letting a guy read it, I've never thought of that either. That is a really good idea. But I don't know guys that read around me that I would listen to my book. My husband doesn't read. He Googles the dirty words in my book to find the sex scenes, and that's all he ever reads, like, in my books. So he's no help at all. But anyway.
So does he read them then, Abby, after you're done?
No, ever.
No.
Like, seriously, he buys the Kindle version, searches a few dirty words, he knows that they're going to be in a sex scene, and that's all he reads, ever. He's never read anything else. Not a big fiction reader.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that's it.
Rebecca, what about you? Do you have a beta team?
I do. I have an intimate beta team. I tend to use the same people because they have different personalities and they have different takes from it. So I get a different reaction or feedback from them. So I do it in 2 sections. So my first beta team is usually 2 or 3 people, and I give it to them chapter by chapter. And they help me with my storyline and keep me on pace. And all of a sudden something happens to one of my characters' personalities, or they do something way off base, it pulls me back on, so it's something easy to correct right from the beginning. And then after I do that, the second beta team, which is another 2 or 3 people, gets that finished product. So they'll get through and read that again and get feedback on that after all those changes have been made. So I can feel bad for my beta team because the first group obviously is reading craziness, like Kathleen says, like the half-dressed stuff, and I tell them, I warn them, they know what they're getting. It's grammatically incorrect and it's a mess, but I always wonder if they actually go back and read the finished product afterwards because they've read the crappy version really. And so I always feel bad because I always say afterwards, like, the book is so much different than when you read it. You have to go back. It's so much better. So I'm just hoping that they, have that opportunity. They do go back, and they usually do. I think they usually go back and read the finished product afterwards. But yeah, I do have 2 teams. My concept team, and then my other team just to see how we did. Really, my double check team.
So how long does that process take then for you, generally?
Well, because this book, I've been doing it differently because it's the process of writing it has been slower. I haven't been giving them chapter by chapter. This one I'm going to give them in chunks. But it's one of the things I demand is because I'm giving chapter by chapter, and the chapters usually, anywhere 10 to 12 pages, they can do a day turnaround and then give me that day turnaround reaction. And you weigh, just with any beta reader, you weigh that the reaction on things you want to change or don't want to change. It's something you do it on purpose, so they may not realize what it is, the reason you're doing it. They may confuse them or frustrate them, but it's a way of the reaction that you're getting, the emotional response that you're trying to get out of them. But that's a quick turnaround. And then when they have the final, that one takes a little bit longer. But sometimes I'm already into the editing process when I get that feedback from my second beta team. And it's okay. It's more of just it's someone else to kind of give you that clarity of, yes, you did it, and this is what I got, this is the reaction I get. It's more, I use my beta team a lot for making sure I don't overlook things. For example, for Out of Breath, when the girls were in college playing soccer, one of my beta readers is like, you haven't really talked about, like, there's no soccer balls, there's no cleats, there's no this, you just need to drop them in there every once in a while. And it's just something that small that just, I didn't even realize, because it wasn't soccer season. But just like putting a ball into their hands or putting cleats in the back of the trunk. I mean, it's just something that simple that a beta reader picked up on that has really the relevance to the story itself. It wasn't, but it just gives it that credibility that you're looking for as an author.
that's an excellent point. And a big part of why you do have beta readers. That's so when you're writing, I know it's a process. So what is does it take, does it impact how you sleep, how you eat, any of that? Kathleen?
Yes. I am probably the opposite of a procrastinator. So where somebody might go out and clean or do this or do that or whatever when they're trying to think, I don't. I just actually sit there and stare at my computer and just like write, and then end up having to scrap half of it. So, which is not necessarily good. But I'm very focused, and when I'm working on a deadline, and especially it's always a deadline, but when I'm working on a deadline, I can't go off and write this or that, or I can't write 2 books at the same time. I tried it, it didn't work. I have to be very focused, and I tend to I will get up and start at 8 in the morning and go until 8 or 9 at night, or 10 or 11 at night straight. Obviously staggering in life and kids and everything else in between, but I'm pretty focused in that sense. And there a lot of just life in general kind of just gets pushed aside. Like bills don't get paid, takeout. I go to Costco and stock up for a week's worth of meals. Like it's just I just shut down with everything else so that I can focus on what I'm writing.
Good. Thank you, Kathleen. Abby, what about you?
I come in this office and I close the door, and if the door's closed, you're not allowed to open it for fear of having things thrown at your head. So no one opens the door. And I have a lot of these in here, and I have a lot of coffee, and I write until I'm done. I will stop sometimes at night and go to sleep sometimes, and sometimes I'll take showers when the smell gets to be too much. But other than that, sometimes my husband will throw food and close the door real fast because he's afraid I need food. But that's about it. I get it. That's why I write so fast. When I'm on it, I'm on it. I don't do anything else. My husband is now he does do other things, but he is Mr. Mom, and he gets the kids. He deals with the kids when I'm finishing a book. He gets them from school. He gets them to extracurricular. He makes sure they've had food. They get baths. He does all of that. If he did not, I would not be able to do this. So that's pretty much my routine.
Rebecca?
Well, as you know, I'm a Mountain Dew junkie, so that's my energy. That's where I pretty much sustaining nutrients, really. I don't eat very much. I try to. I'll grab a snack here or there. I'm the same thing like it's Kathleen. It's takeout. It's whatever's convenient. And I have to be. I'm not a morning person, so my day doesn't start till afternoon. But I don't mind staying up if I'm channeled and I have something going in my head. I don't mind staying up to 3 in the morning to write it. But I'm one of those. I can't shut the door. I can't say I'm writing. I definitely have to be there in it. I have to have that experience in that. And the voice is coming, and sometimes I don't. I mean, it doesn't mean I'm not sitting in front of a computer. It just means that nothing's being typed. So I can't force it. I'm not one of those authors. I can't. I've tried, and it's just miserable. And I don't. I think the difference is
Right.
I don't want to make it feel like it's work. I don't want to resent writing. I don't want it to be a moment where I'm like, oh my God, I have to do this. I have to want to love it and be passionate about it and get that exhilaration when you nail a scene. That is so important to me. So I wait, and so that's why my books take longer to come out. You're only going to get like a book a year from me because I have to wait for the writing gods to speak to me. So it's just, it's a little bit of a different process. I'm definitely much more, I have to be in that zone and that right connection with my writing, but I survive a Mountain Dew.
So do you tend to, do all of you write every day? Abby, do you write every day?
Every single day. I write on Saturdays and Sundays. Now, Monday through Friday is when I get up, the kids go to school, they're gone by 7:30, I start to write. and I'll write until they get home, see them some. They all have things to do after school, places to go, so then I come back in here and I write some more. Weekends, I don't write full days. Today, I think I probably wrote 5 hours. Yesterday, I did get in a lot because my husband and youngest had gone hunting. So with them gone and the older two doing their social thing, I had time to write. But yeah, it's the everyday thing for me. I rarely, unless I'm out of town, a day doesn't go by that I don't write. So I like it. I like to write.
Yeah, and we love it. We love that you do. Kathleen, what about you?
Yeah, I'm writing every day as well, and I'm kind of in the same. Well, although my husband he works full time, so and we actually had a nanny up until December, and then we've made some switches and changes because our kids are school age. So now I'm like doing the whole mom thing with the drop off and pick up. So trying to squeeze the writing in between that and then late at night. It's challenging, but I have to write every day. I have to right now because I have a deadline in 2 weeks. But like I'm always writing every day as it is. I mean, at least a couple thousand words or whatever if I can get them in then, and hopefully they're decent then I feel good.
I don't write every day. I have to balance it with my son. So when I'm in my mom bubble, I'm in my mom bubble, and I don't interrupt that. So he gets my full attention. So I have that. But then when he's with his father, I write if I can. And again, it works for me. But yeah, no, it's my intention to write every day. It's my will, even if it's just going back and reading something I've already written, just to kind of get me in the zone, just to get connected, or do some editing. If I'm not feeling that I can continue on with the process, I need to think about something or dwell on something or wait for it to hit me. But yeah, there's always something coming out. It's just the productivity can vary from day to day. And yeah, so it's. As I said, it's my intention to write every day. Whether it actually happens or not is a different story.
So kind of along that line, we have some fan questions now, and one of them is, when you do write your books and you get into those moments and you're having you have a heart or a gut-wrenching scene, how do you come back from that? Or how can you carry on from that part of a scene? And I think that plays into having to write every day too. But how do you move beyond that? So, Abbi, what about you? Can you start with that one?
Yes, I can. I haven't had to write one of those for a while until I wrote Simple Perfection. It was probably the hardest I had ever done. I think that I draw off of it. It's hard and it makes me emotional and it makes me very attached. It makes me very dramatic after I've had to write something like that and deal with it and focus. So once I'm in that mode, I can really write some good stuff because then I'm pulling on all those different things and heartstrings, and I can write more emotional scenes, and it helps me. It doesn't put me in a funk because I know where the story's headed, unlike the reader, and I know it's going to be okay. But it helps me draw on that emotion and drama, and it's just good for me. I like it when I get to write one of those. I didn't like going in Simple Perfection. Please do not throw Rotten Tomatoes at me. That was hard. But like Rush Too Far, I had to write that last scene in Fallen Too Far again from Rush's point of view. It was devastating. I even had to go read Never Too Far, and I wrote the book just to get myself to feel better when I was done because it was devastating. But because of that, I took all that energy and that big ball of emotion and started writing my next book because I was ready to go then. So it helps.
Thank you. I know some readers like myself, we tend to find a way to maybe want to throw something like our e-reader when we get to some of those scenes. So we don't know the end though, the rest of the story at that point. Kathleen, what about you?
I would say I'm the same as Abbi in that the most emotional scenes that I've ever had to write were in 10 Tiny Breaths, and I mean those were gut-wrenching scenes as opposed to others were kind of like softly emotional. with One Tiny Light. There was a lot of kind of soft emotional scenes, but 10 Tiny Breaths was like, like rip your guts out and throw them on the floor. So for me, it made the story whole, and it made the characters more three-dimensional, and so bringing them to life like that makes it easier for me to continue writing and progressing with the story. And as Abby said, I mean, I'm the same. I know obviously I usually know where the story's going, but either way, it's going to be a happily ever after. I cannot write a non-happily ever after book. So.
You're so
Rebecca?
nice. Yeah, guys, you guys are so nice. As you know, I have no problem ending a book in a not so nice place. But I have to be embodied by the emotion. I have to put myself there again and have to be a part of it. Even if it's her reaction from another character, I know that anger and what that fuel is. It's feeding that other character to act that way. So writing abuse scenes and writing these traumatic scenes, writing, when she's on the verge of that was one of the hardest scenes I've ever had to write, was her in the ocean. And I don't want to give this too much away to people that haven't read my books, but it was, I had to write that scene a lot. And actually I had to literally go out and sit and be there and picture it. I cry a lot, I guess, but I also have the sweet moments that make me smile and make me laugh and fill my heart. I feel it too. I feel that same elation. So, but yeah, the hardest the hardest cry I probably had was when Emma received that letter from Rachel, and I had to be angry and mean enough and just heartless enough to write that. And I bawled afterwards, and I wanted to call somebody and tell them why I was crying, and I was like, this is not gonna come out right. No matter who I call, this is not gonna. They're gonna be like, why are you? Don't stop crying. And I didn't. I just sucked it up and got over it. But it was one of those things that I feel it. I get through. I think it's part of my writing process, as I said, the dialogue out loud and the emotions, and I act it out, I guess, and I feel it, I embody it. So.
Well, I can imagine, some of that feeling that you get of anger and everything. How do you deal with that?
Oh God. I drink. No. Okay. Well, sorry, but it's just it's just knowing that gratification of that. I was able to capture it, and I was able to put it into words, and I was able to make it happen the way I wanted it to. I think that high of nailing it is the biggest reward, and being able to tap into those emotions and getting them right. So.
Nice. Well, thank you. Thank you for answering that. So one question on here from one of the fans is, how do you keep all of your characters straight? Do you find that some are more strong-willed than others? Kathleen?
I think Kathleen is having technical difficulties.
Oh, she is?
Yes, she will be back. She's having a little
okay.
She will be back.
Abby, how about you? I didn't see anything from her on that. So,
yeah.
Abby, how about you? How do you keep them straight?
Well, it can be difficult. The further along I get in the Sea series, I'm working on book 7 now, and I've introduced all these different people, and I have to go back and remember whose mama's this, and is this mama alive, and whose kid, what is that kid's name again? I mean, so that is difficult to keep my character straight there. I've been known to completely throw in somebody from another series into another book series when I'm writing because I get confused. So I have to go back and catch myself because that part's not easy. Now, when I'm writing the characters, and it's the specific characters in that story, it's easy for me to keep them straight because that's whose head I've been in and I'm in. It's just when I'm adding all those other people around, I have to think, okay, we're back at Live Bay again. Who the crap goes to Live Bay? Who would all be here? Let me remember, I need to throw them in here and make sure everyone's together with who, and would they be here together, and are they dating, and all that kind of thing. So that's hard, not going to lie. But and I mess
Do you
up
have like a big Do you have a big chart or something that you have all
No,
of those listed?
that would be what a smart person would do. I'm not that organized. I wish that I was, and I keep saying I'm going to make that chart. It hasn't happened yet. So, yeah, I need one. I definitely need one, but I don't have one. I go back and I look at books. That's all those books behind me. I'll go grab one and start flipping, trying to find something. So it keeps me as straight as I can, I guess. A lot of times my editor will catch something and go, yeah, that's not the kid's name, or this is how you spelled Trish in the last book, or, you know, like, oops. So, anyway.
That's funny. Rebecca, do you ever have any issues keeping characters straight, or are some more strong-willed than others that, you know, just jump out?
Some characters stay longer than they're supposed to. It's you know, because sometimes because my beta readers have such a strong reaction to them that I really just had them in that scene, and I'll get this reaction and it'd be like, you like them, okay, I guess I can keep them around for a while. Like Jared, Evan's brother, was really just supposed to be there in the first book, and then someone really liked his personality just from that little bit I gave them. So I kept him, and kept him for Sarah, so it ended up working out really well. So yeah, but all my characters, even my sub-characters, have personality. They're fully developed personas, and so you'll see that, you know, some people want the spin-offs of this or that, and I'm only doing that one for Jonathan because his character is so strong, and he has a crazy story all in itself, but I won't do it for any other characters. But you feel them, they feel them developed, you know, all this, the friendships and the side characters to it. So I understand the want of the fans to have more from them because they feel like they know them and they just want, you know, to get to know them more. So, but yeah, no, I don't have issues getting to know them, as I said, because I know I can talk in their voice. Not literally, but I can talk in their voice as far as being in their head, and I know who they are. So I have no issue with that. So yeah, there's no character confusion.
I like, though, that you said that, you know, some stick around longer than they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was actually funny with one of the characters. Well, actually, even with Annalise, she was just supposed to be a side project, someone just to kind of add a wrench into their world. And one of my beta readers says, I hope she has a point. I hope you give her a point. Like, she's just not a character that just is floating in here. And I was like, okay. So that's when the beta readers, you know, add too, because, you know, they have this attachment or they get intrigued by somebody, and they can have a lot more influence on the story than was originally my intention. And then, of course, Annalise did end up having her moment. And she's one of my most hated characters, and she really wasn't supposed to be in the book that much. So it's just really interesting how it works out.
Yeah, absolutely. Kathleen, you're back.
I know. Who invited me? I'm never going to get invited again to these.
Oh, no, we love having you.
I'm back. Yeah, I had some technical difficulties. We're good.
Okay, well, I'm looking at the fan questions, and we're getting close to the end of our hour, and I know that there's one here for you, and that is that somebody wants to know when they'll be getting Ben's story, hopefully soon. It says, no, they say, I know that we're going to get Ben's story soon. They're very excited about that. Are there going to be more after that?
Well, the short answer is there will be one more. And nothing has been announced yet, and I'm not sure if it's going to happen in this year or after Burying Water, that series comes out. We'll have to see, but I will be writing Trent's story. it will not be a retelling of 10 Tiny Breaths, though, and that's all I can tell you right now.
Okay. Well, we'll wait and see. So for each of you, one other fan question is, at what age did you know that you wanted to be a writer? And do you really feel like you got the support that you wanted or needed when you discovered that? So, Rebecca, how about you?
I've always written, whether it's in a journal or it's the creative writing in elementary school. I was that kid that had to stand in front of the class to read my story. I just had an overactive imagination. I play acted, and it's all Disney's fault. I don't know. So it's just, but I was always had stories. I always created. I always was playing in that, whether it made it on paper or not. Sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. When at the moment I made that choice to become an author, my friends were so supportive, and I had a full career before this, and it was just by accident, really, what happened. But it's just something I've always been. It's always been inside me. I've always been that person. I just had to have that. Everything had to align, I guess, in a way for me to be able to do it. And yeah, and everyone's been extremely supportive. I'm very, very lucky.
That's really helpful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Abby, what about you?
Yes, I told lies as a child, and when we would sit down at the dinner table at night, I wanted to tell an interesting story, so I just made crap up that happened that day, and my family, I realized that this did not happen that day, that I was lying. So I guess it was about 8 or so, my mother started putting notebooks in front of me and telling me to write my interesting stories down. And I loved it, and I would write notes and stories and put all this stuff down. So I quit lying. That was good. And I started being more creative on paper. I always read. I always had a book in my hand from the time I could read. I was reading V.C. Andrews at 12 years old. So you can imagine the Flowers in the Attic thing last week really excited me. Anyway, back to the story. When I became an adult, I worked for some newspapers and magazines. I did a lot of freelance. I did an article. I was actually writing an article monthly for a local magazine, Family and Parenting magazine, when my husband bought me my MacBook and told me to go ahead and write a book. So my youngest was starting kindergarten. I had time to write. I always knew I was going to write a book. I just thought I would be older before I got a chance to write my first book. So thankfully my husband made it happen sooner rather than later.
Aww, very supportive.
Yes.
Kathleen, what about you?
Well, so I used to write a lot. When I was about 6 years old, I remember in elementary school we had this program at the library in class in school, and you could go in, you could write stories, and they would bind them with I don't know, like wallpaper and cardboard, and I don't know, this machine that smelled funny, but it worked, and you can make these really cool books. And so I did one in grade, no, I was 6 years old, so grade 1, and I think I did one in grade 2 as well, and of course they were all like princesses and unicorns and stuff. And then I was into this whole big choose your own adventure thing from like, I think I was 8 or 9 years old, so I did a whole pile of those. I had books, like so many books, because they were all, you had to like go to this book if you wanted to that adventure, if you wanted this adventure, you go to that book. But then after that, I'm a pretty practical person, and so I mean, really, like, am I going to make a living out of writing? I didn't think I was going to be able to, and I grew up reading a ton, but I was always, I was in English, but I was also into math and so a lot of law and everything, and I did a business degree, and I had a career outside of this in sales and sales strategy, etc., for about 10 or 11 years, and then when I was on maternity leave with my second child, we're in Canada, so we have a year-long maternity leaves, and you can imagine being at home with like a screaming newborn and a 2-year-old. And so I needed an escape, and so I started writing. I just had an idea. I thought, okay, I'm just gonna start writing. I'm gonna do it because I need that escape, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and I mean, I never told anybody. I didn't tell anybody that I was doing it except my husband. And then I think it was about 18 months later, I said, oh, I'm gonna publish this. I'm gonna go, self-pub it and, do that. And so I kind of just put an announcement. So I'm like, all right, I wrote a book and I'm publishing it. And I had tons of support from my friends and family and everything. They were really good. And then, but I had a full career I was doing, and it wasn't until 10 Tiny Breaths, the success of that, and then the offers came, and then it was a decision of, okay, do I walk away from my career, which is it's a solid career, to go write full time? And I mean, of course, the answer was yes, but it was a tough decision to make. I think my mom, when I told her, she was like, oh, that's nice. Was obviously a little bit worried because it's, the publishing industry is dynamic and ever changing. And like I said, I was walking away from a career, but it's been worth it. Yeah. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we're getting close to the end of the hour. I don't have any other questions that haven't been asked yet. I guess there is one more, and then I wanted to see if there was anything you each would like to just say, to your fans or anything like that. But there is one other question, and maybe this is best for you, Rebecca, is getting inspiration for those. We talked about this a little bit, but the really intense scenes like abuse. Is there, how did we've talked about how you felt about those, but is there, was there anything in particular that you did to really get, I guess, inspired?
I personally used to work with teens, troubled teens out of college. I have a degree in psychology. I mean, I started as a journalism major and depth with a psychology degree. So I worked with adolescents, and I saw firsthand what the traumas of abuse can do, and just the lives that they lived. And I didn't know how to use that and what to do with it until this opportunity came up where I, was laid off from a job and I had a winter off, and I just took a chance in writing this novel. The actual scenes of me putting my characters through those, they are not inspired by, it's just my own twisted imagination, I suppose. I don't know, I guess. But it's just, I didn't draw from anything that I've seen. It's just I was inspired by my career, and then I guess it's just, again, it's that imaginative side. I don't have an excuse for myself.
Oh, that's okay. Well, I just want to say thank you on behalf of both Abbi McCarthy and I. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to come and chat with us tonight. And I know that our book blog is Up All Night Book Blog, and we selected that name because we do read a lot and keeps us up all night. Is there anything that maybe what's the last book that you've read that kept you up all night, or do you have time to read outside of your own work? Abbi, what about you?
Yeah, it's hard to read outside of my own work. I do read outside of my own work. Normally it's because someone has asked for a blurb. If I can get to it, or if it's an author that I like to read, I will make time to read that book and to do a blurb. Or if it's a close friend that wants my opinion, I will do that too. I can't remember the last book that kept me up all night because I don't do that. If I stayed up all night, I couldn't write the next day. Literally, we would have to go back probably 3 years ago when I picked up Beautiful Disaster before I was writing like this for a book that kept me up all night. Because it's just, I have to put it down knowing I can't do this. I don't have to, I mean, it can be an awesome book, but I know I can't. I mean, I'll joke about somebody keeping me up all night, but yeah, they didn't. I mean, it was a great book, meaning it could have kept me up all night if I didn't have a writing gig the next day to get to. But I can't let myself stay up and read. I wish I could, but I can't.
Right. Rebecca, what about you?
I'm actually checking my Kindle, see what was last book that I read all the time. When I'm writing, I have to read outside my genre, though, because I can't have a similar voice or anyone that's in the dramatic writing style be close to me. So I'm reading a lot of the fantasy and paranormal right now. I can't remember. I just finished Legion, but I took a long time reading that one just because I didn't really want it to end the book. But yeah, there definitely there's some books that keep me up. I'm a night reader. It helps me clear my thoughts, clear my head. So I read before bed. Love reading. I would never stop. I just like everyone else. It's what got me into this was reading. So yeah.
Right. Thank you, Kathleen. Oh
yeah. So I would say for me, I'm a binge reader, so I can't read while I'm writing. The voice is like I get confused enough as it is. I can't add books into there. So I would say the last book that actually kept me up was The Opportunist by Taryn Fisher.
Don't get me started on that book.
Oh God,
Taryn Fisher will strangle her again. Okay.
I know. I was up until I remember it was at least 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I looked and I remember like the last page, and I looked at it and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And then I turned it off, and then I woke up at whatever it was 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I still had that sick feeling in my stomach. And I then messaged her. I never talked to her before in my life, and I said, like, when is the next book coming out? And I refused. I wasn't going to read the second until the third was out because I was like, oh my God. But that was the last book that was like just, it floored me, and I could not put that thing down.
Yes.
I agree.
Similar feelings with that book, yes.
I think yes, we'd all agree. So, and then just in closing, again, thank you for your time tonight. Is there anything you'd like to just close out with, and maybe a quick comment before we finish up? Abby?
Thank y'all for having me. This was fun, even if I'm in my bum clothes and Rebecca looks like she walked to a stage set in her beautiful, shiny, pretty thing and hair and lovely background. I knew I was getting into this when I agreed to do anything with Rebecca, that she was going to look fantastic. This has been fun. Thank you. Congratulations on your blog. It's a year. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And that's it, I guess. Bye.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Kathleen, how about you?
Yeah, I thank you so much. I promise next time my battery will not die. I promise. Please, Rebecca, don't curse me, please. She's like Kathleen is off the list for these things. No, and it's been great. It's always nice to be able to take a break and talk to people and talk to obviously to Abby and Rebecca, and congratulations on your 1-year anniversary. It's bloggers like you who keep us inspired to continue and produce those books and help us to reach readers. So thank you so much.
Oh, we appreciate that. Thank you. Rebecca?
Yes, thank you, and congratulations on a year. It's amazing. And I hope you continue to read and write in your blogs, because I know for myself, I can write all I want, but it's if I don't have the readers and the support of the bloggers, we just end up being that crazy person who talks to herself. So I appreciate that you guys actually read my work and are supportive, and that you're there, because that's the difference makes me an author, is by having my readers. So I really do appreciate all the support.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all, and we're going to go ahead and stop the broadcast now.